Let's also get you some latest news coming in, and this is coming in from Pakistan, where the caretaker government and the Interior Minister has taken an important decision. This is about one document policy for Afghans, and there is a plan for mass deportation of various Afghan refugees who are living in Pakistan right now. Now, this is a call that has been taken by the caretaker government, while many would question the human rights angle to it, and why would the neighboring country of Pakistan, which has often lectured India on human rights, would take a position like that. And the fact that the caretaker government has taken this position, what are the essential ramifications of this particular move? It is believed that mostly Afghans will be targeted in this campaign, which is set to begin from the 1st of November. This one document policy for Afghans to be implemented. Joining us on the broadcast is Anand Narasimhan, giving us more perspective on the story. Anand, what does this one document policy really mean? Is it specifically for Afghans or largely has ramifications for them?
Well, this is something, Anusha, good evening, and to our viewers. This has been something which has been a practice since the British times, because on either side of the Durand line, you had a lot of the Pak or the Afghan tribes who had their people. And that's why they would have a pass, which would be like a document which would allow them to float between Afghanistan and Pakistan. But it was supposed to be only in that Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region, and that too in and around the Durand line. But for long, both nations have been now talking about a one-document policy. In fact, outside of the Chaman border, the other border which these two nations have, already this one document or a valid visa policy is on. It's the Chaman border which actually has the largest amount of traffic of Afghan locals who are coming and going into Pakistan. But over a period of time, there has been a huge amount of misuse of this. That's what Pakistan claims. That misuse, because the Afghans have been moving around here and there. But what stands out at this point is that they believe that the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan can be curtailed because of the troubles that are happening. The entire Pashtun Tahaffuz movement, the student movement which started there, a political movement calling for the independence of that entire Pakhtunistan region. The Afghan tribes which are there on that the Pashtuns saying that you should not recognize this Durand line. So these civic issues were something which was troubling the Pakistanis, and that's why now they're going to tell, and this will have an impact of on nearly 1.7 million Afghan population, which will perhaps now be forced to now apply for valid visas or single document for them to come into Pakistan. This is not going to be taken very easily, because that Chaman border repeatedly finds these kind of protests where women, children, people, youngsters, students have been protesting because of the high-handedness of the Pak military and the rangers in that area, and them not being allowed to interact with the tribes. So this is not going to settle. This is at a time when Pakistan is going through a huge amount of political turmoil, and this largely looks like a military measure rather than the civilian government's measure. Because right now the current caretaker Prime Minister openly has said that he's hand in glove with the military, and he's there because of the military establishment. This seems to be the military's way to try and curb the movement of the TTP. But one has to wait and see whether it yields the desired fruit as far as the Pakistanis are concerned, or will this further rile up the Afghans, who will now perhaps openly back these elements against the Pakistan military.
Thank you so much, Anand, for that exhaustive analysis. Joining us on the broadcast is an expert, Mr. Rabinder Sachdev is joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Sachdev, how do you see this one document that has been put out by Pakistan? As my colleague was also pointing out, it has its own history to it. International and more importantly, the domestic sentiments which are involved. And it comes at a time when Pakistan internally is going through a political turmoil. Your assessment?
Thank you so much. It is political grandstanding, I mean, sure, they're basing it on the fact that, 14 out of the last 20 suicide bombings or so in Pakistan were carried out by illegal Afghan refugees or whichever way. But that's just, a layer of a topper. It's grandstanding. It's kind of trying to build up inside the country also sentiment, and also convey the global image also. You see, in this day and age, when world leaders are taking drastic decisions, right, left, right, immediate impact, India today said 40 diplomats outside of the the world is heading in that direction. So Pakistan has taken this step, I think, in that spirit, or with that sense, Pakistan government also can take some big, bold decisions. It's grandstanding.
It's grandstanding, as you argue. What are the internal ramifications for this on Pakistan? As I said earlier, the context of this is it's a caretaker government. It's also a government which is largely seen as hand in gloves with the military establishment. There is reasonable economic and political turmoil to it. And in the midst of all of this, a decision like this is taken, which is largely going to affect the Afghan refugees. What are the regional aspirations? Are there regional aspirations which are responsible for a decision like this?
No, there are, the regional factors or regional frictions are there between Pakistan and Afghanistan, right? Pakistan says that, from the Afghan border, terrorists for them come in and, sow terror in Pakistan. So that's it. But more implication for the domestic would be that exactly as you say, this is a caretaker government. Elections are supposed to happen, I think, in January. So, one, this is creating a new public enemy. You need the other. Of course, India is one big, enemy they want to point out. When you are in your domestic troubles, you always point to outer enemies. So this will create another enemy, and the Pakistan government will tell us, look here, we are telling you that much of the violence in our country is due to these illegal Afghan refugees.
Sure.
Right? So it creates another other to divert the attention, but on the other hand, it could be a lead to a pretext of postponing the elections also.
Sure.
Right? Because of this, there would be more, internal turmoil. Definitely there would be, if they try to implement, how will they be able to? It's over 1 million or 2 such probably illegals. How will they do that?
Absolutely. And any foreign policy move is clearly reflective of how strong or weak or is a nation going through a turmoil of some sorts. Whatever decisions they take, the domestic influences clearly reflect on the foreign policy or any such decision which is taken. Mr. Ravindra Sachdev, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, and thank you so much for getting us all that perspective. Here on Nation at 5, much more lined up on the other side of a very quick break. Stay tuned.